Hi, this is Larry Troca, and I wanted to do an audio today about horse training aids because very few people understand what a horse training aid is and why they're important. When I was young and just starting my training career, things went pretty well for me. And, I took a lot of pride in training my horses in very mild equipment, just a ring snaffle and a set of reins, and that's it. And so all the bits that I used were the mildest possible. And I would work my tail off and get those horses trained. And like I said, I did pretty well. Matter of fact, the very first futurity I ever went to, the very first futurity horse I ever trained, I made it to the finals of two of the futurities out here on the coast. And so at one of the fraternities, like say after I made the finals, a trainer that I really respected, a big time trainer, came up to me and congratulated me on making the finals, and he says to me, "I notice you've got that really mild bit on your horse, and I'm just kind of curious, why." And I told him, I says, well, I really worked, to get my horses as light as possible and responding as possible with the mildest bit possible. And he looked at me and said, boy, I bet that takes a lot of work. And I didn't know what he was, getting at. But, I looked at him and said, well, yeah, I said, because everything is so mild, it does take a lot of work to get them responding and light in this really mild equipment. And he looks at me and he says, that's why you're an idiot. I mean, he actually said it just like that. That's why you're an idiot. And it took me back. It took me by surprise, because this was kind of one of my heroes. He was a legend in the horse industry. He'd won a ton of stuff, and here he is calling me an idiot, and kind of it embarrassed me, and it kind of teed me off. But I asked him. I said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "This is my first futurity, and I've made it to the finals of two of the biggest futurities out here on the coast. I mean, I got to be doing something right." And he explained. He said, you've already admitted that you've got to work the horse really hard to get him lightened up and responding and working in that really mild equipment. And you're not taking into account the wear and tear on that horse, all the extra work you're putting him through, when if you would use the appropriate equipment that was more effective, that got the job done better, you would be able to work that horse and get him trained with half the effort and half the wear and tear on that horse's body. And I hate to admit this, but my ego kind of took over, and I wanted to say, yeah, well, I just beat you in the finals here. Don't be criticizing me because I just want to use a snaffle bit and my two hands. But anyway, I respected the guy enough where I kept my mouth shut and thanked him for his input. That was it. The futurity was over and I went home. The following day, I'm right back to work training. I got a barn full of horses. And I'm working this horse in a snaffle bit, and, we're having problems, and I'm having to work him pretty hard, and I'm having to do a lot of pulling. To tell you the truth, I got to thinking about what that trainer had told me. As much as I hated to admit it, the more I thought about it, the more I'm thinking, he's right. If I would use equipment that made it easier for the horse to understand and was basically the type of equipment that made it so that the horse would respond easier, things would probably go better. I could work the horse a lot easier as half as much and probably get more done. And so that really opened my eyes. That was kind of like a aha moment for me. And so I started using some of the training aids that the other trainers were using that were having a lot of success. And when I say training aids, I'm talking about tack and equipment. A bit is a training aid. Spurs are a training aid. Everything we use on a horse is a training aid, a halter, a saddle. They each have their purpose. And the training aids that all the trainers were using were either a German martingale, a head setter, an easy stop. Some would use draw reins. And I always saw that equipment and just thought, I can get it done without that. But the more I thought about it, the more I'm thinking about, boy, these other trainers are getting it done, getting their horses trained with half as much work, half as much stress on the horse. Their horses learned a lot faster, and they were just getting a more thorough job done. And so, I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to give some of this equipment a try and see how it goes. So I started trying the German martingale and the head setter and easy stop and stuff like that. And sure enough, it really improved my training, especially the German martingale. Matter of fact, the German martingale probably improved my horses more than anything. And I still use one today. Now, there's a lot of misconceptions about training aids like the German martingale, the head setter, stuff like that. And people don't understand how horses are trained. I'll get questions like, well, once you use it, don't you always have to use it? You can't ride the horse without it. Well, that's whenever I hear that, I know I'm talking to somebody who really doesn't understand horses or horse training. It's no different than any other training aid. You use it when you need it, when the horse is having problems understanding, and then once you've got the job accomplished, you don't use it anymore. No different than using spurs or a bit or something like that. If a horse doesn't move off your leg, doesn't move off your bare leg, you press him with the spur, and when he moves off the spur, you release it. And next time you use your bare leg, he moves off it. If you don't need the spur, you don't use it. These training aids like the German martingale, head setter, easy stop, draw reins, they work exactly that same way. You use them when you need them, you get the job accomplished, get the horse understanding, then you don't need them. And so they're a good tool. They're a good training tool. They help the horse understand better. They help get the job done quicker and more thoroughly too. And I'll occasionally use one of the training aids for a month or two. Then I might not ride them for a month with it. I don't need it. And then, for a tune-up, I might go back to it and use it once in a while or something like that. But anyway, I hope that clears up the confusion about what training aids are and what they're good for. If I had to make a recommendation to most people, I would say, the vast majority of people could get a lot of good out of a German martingale. And of course, you only want to use that German martingale with some type of a ring snaffle. You don't want to use it with the curb bit. If you're going to use a curb bit, then the head setter is the training aid that you would want to go with. And again, it's just a tool. It's just a tool to help that horse learn to give to pressure, give to your hands, have good head position. Once you've got him responding, you don't need to ride him with it. Use it once in a while as a tune-up maybe, but that's what those training aids are for. Anyway, I hope this helped. Hope this clarified things. All right, take care.